everyone's talking about the Switch 2 except Nintendo themselves. It's the first Toadstool Boardroom of the year, and we're going to dive into all of the crazy Nintendo Switch 2 leaks and rumors. Boardroom on! Hello and welcome to episode 118 of the Toadstool Boardroom for the week of January 8th, 2025. Happy New Year! My name's Logan Plant, and I'm joined by Justin Corice. Hi, Justin.
What's up, Logan? The boardroom was so off, and it is so on now.
It was. It's hard when the boardroom is off. I miss it. I go through Nintendo podcasting withdrawals, so we're ready to go this week alongside Chris Shriver. Hey, Chris.
Boardroom on. I'll say it.
Boardroom
Let's
on.
go.
He's saying Boardroom on. We got him.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
We got a really fun show this week for the first show of 2025. We're going to do the Nintendo 2025 anti-predictions show in a little bit. It's a fun spin on our usual prediction format where we're going to call three things that aren't going to happen this year. And we're going to get to a huge backlog of EGAD's emails that we'll hopefully have time for, including my favorite one, which is, what's a game for you that instantly transports you to days of Thanksgiving past? That shows you how bad our backlog is on the listener questions right now. That one's been sitting there for a couple of months, so hopefully we get to all of those. But where else to start but with Nintendo Switch 2? So CES is happening right now, the Consumer Electronics Show, and every company and their mother's companies chose to bring Switch 2 accessories to this thing. They were all over the show floor, and most interestingly, Genki, which is an unlicensed Nintendo accessory manufacturer, so they don't have like an official partnership with Nintendo, but they do create accessories for Switch, and now looking like Switch 2. They brought a whole mock-up of the Nintendo Switch 2 to CES of what they think this thing is going to look like based on specifications they say that they can confirm. And it's basically what we've been talking about for the last year. It's the Joy-Cons that snap onto the side with magnets instead of sliding in. It's the new thing, which is that the Joy-Con might be a mouse, like a PC mouse, if you turn it on its side, which I'm so psyched to talk about, and a whole lot more. But people are losing it over this thing. It's just going crazy. A different mock-up of the Joy-Con leaked online that matches exactly what Genki brought to the show. So, Chris, it seems like we know what this thing is going to look like, and I'm guessing you have a lot to say about this.
I mean, I don't think I have any more to say than what most people on the internet have said at this point. What I do find it interesting that, so if you haven't seen the images at this point, there's basically what appears to be an optical sensor in the left Joy-Con. That's the part that confuses me. Most people use the mouse with the right hand. If you were to crack a Joy-Con off your Switch right now and the left one and go ahead and use it, like it makes sense. Like if you hold it a certain way, like I could see how they could make this thing work. What doesn't make sense to me is what do you do with your other hand? Because now your right Joy-Con is now like not in use, I guess. I don't really know. So I don't know if there's going to be another optional peripheral that they're going to sell, maybe a keyboard, or you can like just sync up any Bluetooth keyboard to the Switch 2. That would be kind of crazy, but I think Nintendo knows they have to compete with the handheld PC market at this point, especially with the showing that we just saw from Valve at CES this week with the Lenovo Legion Go S. What I want to happen, I think is happening, but like I kind of can't believe it at the same time. It's also very possible that this thing's going to come out and it's going to be used in a completely different, like off the wall way. Like I think the fellas at Nintendo Life were saying, like, what if this is somehow used for tracking, similar to the way that the Wiimote was, and instead of like an IR sensor, like somehow they figured out how to make it work with an optical sensor. You don't need a sensor bar. Like Nintendo's known to take technology and kind of turn it on itself like that, so it's possible they're doing something along those lines. But I don't know. Like it could be a lot of different things. It's exciting though.
It's the most exciting part about everything of the last week and the last 3 weeks, actually, really, since we turned the boardroom off for 2024. It's been nonstop of stuff coming out. The motherboard allegedly has been leaked. People were freaking out about its power or lack thereof in some people's opinions, but I don't know, whatever. It's going to be powerful enough for me. But the the optical sensor is by far the most interesting part, because throughout all of this, throughout the last several years of talking about what a Switch successor is going to look like, and just thinking, oh, it's going to be an iterative thing, it's going to be boring, it's going to be just a half-step upgrade. This is the weird Nintendo curveball that I've been waiting for of this thing. This is the 3D slider bar. This is the Wii U gamepad. What is this thing going to be? Could it just be an IR sensor that's on the bottom of the right Joy-Con that's used in 3 games and nothing else? Or could it be something that's really integrated into kind of a new way to interface with your Switch? Think about using it in tabletop mode and taking off one of the Joy-Con and then having a mouse. You've got a little handheld tablet there with a mouse and keyboard, that maybe a keyboard, who knows? Maybe they'll sell a little plastic shell that you slide the Joy-Con into, and then it makes a form factor like a PC mouse with the Joy-Con in the middle there. Maybe they'll do that. I'm sure if this thing is actually like a mouse, they'll sell a little just plastic mouse pad for you to rest on your lap, so you actually have a place to use this thing when you're using it on your TV. Like, there's so many weird Nintendo ways that this could go with, if it's a mouse. They could bring Kid Icarus Uprising back with another weird control scheme that nobody ever asked for. It's just, it feels exciting, and the most possibilities of anything we've talked about with Switch 2 to be different. Justin, what's your take on this potential of this optical sensor people are talking about?
Yeah, if we want to talk about that specifically, certainly a lot of people have talked about the mouse functionality. I think that would be cool. And I think that honestly, like, having it baked into both sides of the Joy-Con so that you can be a lefty or a righty would make a lot of sense. I could also, think of applications where it's not, maybe you're not using it just like a straight computer mouse, but like a 1-2 switch scenario where different people in games have that and you do different things with that, or I don't know, like a shell game using those or something like that. Also, like, don't forget that, like, a little IR sensor is what your smartwatch has to do things like check your pulse and things like that. There's a lot of ways that something like that could be used that makes sense for what Nintendo does nowadays. And so I like the idea, and I'm with you. I think that is very much a, like, all right, here's our weird curveball. Here's, outside of just like performance standpoint, here's a hardware differentiator between the predecessor. Here's a reason why you'll need to get this. But like, and I will say, I do think that whatever the functionality is, like, it might show up as a, like, mechanic in a Mario and a Zelda game, but for the most part, it's going to be like these, like, party games or weird one-ups that I think that'll really take advantage of it.
WarioWare, yeah. Yeah, WarioWare could do something cool. There could be Mario Party could have side modes with it. There's a lot that they could do with it that I think would be really fun. And yeah, hopefully it doesn't bleed its way into I don't want another Phantom Hourglass situation. But speaking of Phantom Hourglass, this is a way to bring DS games back. If this is truly what this is.
And that's exactly what I was going to say, is like it gives you the ability to, like, point and draw in ways that we haven't been able to do so before. Like, if this lets me get a new trauma center, hell yeah, let's do it. Like, that sounds amazing. And like, I know there was one for the Wii, but it wasn't the same thing. And so if maybe this is part of the back compat strategy, and until we see the cost, I'm largely going to err on the side of shove as many features in this thing as you can, because that's at least potential, even if we don't end up using it all. Like, we really didn't use the IR built into the current Switch very much. Let's do it.
Yeah, and when the Castlevania Dominus collection came out last year, that is the ports and remasters of the DS era of Castlevania, people said that the best way to play those was on PC, because it had these two screens side by side. There was the larger top screen that they'd moved to take up about 75% of the screen, and then the bottom screen was just in the top right corner, and it had some of the stuff you did with the map and some of the stuff you used in those Castlevania games with the touchscreen. And people said that was the best way to do it, because you could use your mouse to control what used to be the touchscreen on the DS. So this is already somewhat proven, at least for that style of a Nintendo DS game. And when I think about gating things and how interconnected Switch 1 and 2 still are probably going to be with each other, so we know Switch 1 games are going to play on Switch 2. Nintendo, that's one of the two things they've told us themselves about this thing to this point. And I'm sure there's going to be some sort of eShop integration. I bet NSO carries over. We know Nintendo accounts are carrying over. So when you look at Nintendo Switch Online virtual console offerings, and if the DS is exclusive to Switch 2, you have to own a Switch 2 to play this library of games. There's an actual hardware explanation there, rather than just saying, we're only putting Super Nintendo on new 3DS instead of 3DS, because we want you to buy the new 3DS, and that's essentially what this was last time. So I think it makes a ton of sense. And yeah, I can think of 10 different things they could do with it. And I'm probably getting myself too hyped.
Can I give you my best case scenario?
Yeah.
Here's my best case scenario, and I don't think this is going to happen. But the IR sensor gives it mouse functionality, and the Switch 2 ships with Mario Paint 2.
I think that could happen. I totally could see that. Mario Paint as a launch title would be awesome.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't hate that at all.
Oh, yeah. Fly swatter game, let's go.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, I absolutely think that. I've been thinking there's going to be some launch game that shows off what the new hardware can do, but for months we haven't known what that is. And the second you say mouse and Nintendo, Mario Paint is what comes up. That's what comes to mind. So that would be such a cool thing to bring back for Mario's 40th anniversary, which is this year. Super Mario Brothers 1985. So awesome. So that's enough on the potential PC mouse feature of this thing, though. There was some other stuff. There was a potential motherboard leak online, and there was a lot of discussion about the power level of this thing. Some people were hoping for a while PS4 Pro, but now the conversation seems to be Digital Foundry did a video where they said it will be able to run most PS4 games, but at a lower resolution, but that doesn't matter because it's going to have upscaling. Chris, you know more about this than me. You go for it.
I didn't watch that video, but surprisingly, I watch almost all of Digital Foundry's content usually. Yeah, I mean, DLSS, like, it is getting better. It depends on what version of DLSS this chip is going to be capable of running. Like we saw, it's not going to be doing what the 5000 series chips sets are going to be doing or capable of. But I can't imagine this thing is going to go above 1080p. Or if it does, it will be with DLSS to 4K. There's this weird, like, I don't know what the analogy is that I want to use, but like diminishing returns, I guess is the way to put it, where if your frame rate is too high, like you can't exceed 60 frames a second. If the frame rate is too high and then you use DLSS or rely on DLSS too much, what ends up happening is like there's a certain amount of smoothing that goes into it, where it feels like the latency of it feels like a 30 FPS game, but it looks like a 60 FPS game. They might leverage like that aspect of it more. And this is all very like off the cuff conceptual, but like, I don't know. I don't know. Like what's the weird thing about it though, is like, there's also the patent that just came out where they talk about like a console-based DLSS, which hasn't really happened yet because the other console manufacturers are AMD-based. So I don't know if it's something that they had to file like the second of the year because it just didn't exist yet, or it's like some brand new thing that Nintendo developed in tandem with NVIDIA. I would think NVIDIA would know what they're doing more than Nintendo would in that space. But I don't know.
Yeah, Nintendo did have a patent that surfaced this week that they filed for last July, that July of 2023. I'm just trying to pull up the details here. That described an AI image upscaling technology that would help keep video game download sizes small enough to fit on a physical game cartridge while offering up to 4K textures. So they at the very least filed a patent for something themselves. But
even that, what
NVIDIA
that's describing, like, isn't. I thought, yeah, as I was saying it, I didn't think I was right. That's more so they can keep game like physical media on shelves. Like that's really what they're getting out of that. So what will happen is you'll get like you won't get what's happening on like Xbox right now, where if you have a Series S, you're only downloading textures for like 1080 up to 1080p or whatever it ends up being, and then Series X has its own set of textures that are like, so like Forza will be like 20 gig. The numbers are not right. Like 20 gigs on Series S and then like 70 on Series X. Mm-hmm. What it sounds like Nintendo wants to do is it's the same file size across the board, and those textures are being upscaled natively on the hardware, which I don't know if anyone's doing that at this point.
Some of this is going over my head. Justin, do you have anything about all the tech stuff of what we're hearing about this thing
When you first saw the chips, my immediate thought was, wow, you would have to be such a hardware turbo nerd to know what this means. I can't wait till Chris looks at it and explains it to me. So I appreciate that explanation. And yeah, I mean, we're seeing that things like AI sampling is becoming a bigger and bigger part of GPUs, possibly to an extent, honestly, what we're seeing at CS, a little overboard on it. But like Sony has its PSSR, like this is a cornerstone of, I think, the future of graphics and how that stuff is going to work. We've talked on previous shows about how big of an impact actually that could have on Nintendo's hardware and allow it to really, really punch above its weight. And so I think that it makes sense. And we are seeing an increasing amount of dedicated portions of GPUs specifically to support this function. And that sounds like that's what they're talking about. And it sounds like they have a very specific idea in mind, like a very targeted application, which is exactly that, right? Allowing them to put, this 20% of the data for what the final thing is going to look like and letting the AI basically fill in predetermined gaps that it knows exactly how to fill in properly, effectively to do 4K-ish textures. That's that sort of thing I think is great. And I think it makes a lot of sense for the hardware. I think that it can be really tough, I think, even for experts to look at a chip that we don't know when it came out to make determinations from a performance standpoint. That's stuff that probably still going through a lot of revisions, even if the actual physical things you see socketed into it don't change. What's actually going on in those individual components, I mean, maybe at this point isn't subject to change, but depending on when that chip was produced, we could see some changes there. But I think all of this is to say that I think we're getting a lot of pretty definitive details at this point, and I think we can actually make a lot of really educated determinations and guesses about what we can expect to hear and see.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second, because we were all excited to get into the details, and I think I glossed over something I wanted to hit on this first, which is, why do we think any of this is real, right? And so Genki brings this thing to CES, and essentially that is them saying, this is our best guess at what this thing is going to look like based on what we've been told, maybe by Nintendo, maybe by others. And then there was a story that ran on IGN today where Genki told us basically, yeah, we were able to confirm all the buttons and the shape of this thing, but we don't know anything about what's under the hood. All we know is essentially the shell. And it could have changed from when they saw it. They may not have seen it through the most official source. They might just be guessing, but in the end, they wanted to get clout and the headlines and attention that they are currently getting because they wanted to rush out there at CES with this thing and kind of beat Nintendo to the punch. So how real it is, we don't know for sure, but you can be pretty confident that they wouldn't invest in creating this thing and rolling it out if they didn't have some idea that this is what it was going to look like. So that's why this is a big deal and why we're talking about it so much.
Yeah, and I think there's... Oh, please go ahead.
Go ahead, Justin. No, go ahead.
Well, I think that there's degrees of certainty that you sort of accumulate over time, right? When you see a lot of corroborating information online, when you do see people putting money where it is from a development standpoint, having frankly peripherals leaking information about consoles isn't a new thing, and having something like this detailed that really jives with what we've heard, and it's not coming from internet random number 644. It's actual peripheral manufacturers. It's actual journalists speaking to people and getting people to comment on these things. And frankly, I'm not a journalist. I'm not an investigative reporter, but it is also my understanding that a lot of these off the record conversations tend to be fairly positive about what people are seeing in terms of information. Again, that I'm not a reporter. I'm not one of these people. I don't even have a specific reporter that is my person who's giving this information. But this is just sort of I don't know, industry scuttlebutt.
How it goes.
But when there's enough of that when you're hearing from enough sources and enough people are saying, yeah, I'm kind of hearing that same thing too, you start to, again, those percentages of certainty do start to increase, and we're kind of at a critical mass from it, at least from my perspective. Just me as a consumer who hasn't talked to these peripheral manufacturers, who is only seeing the exact same stuff that everybody else is seeing online, we've crossed that critical threshold for me personally, where I feel that what we're seeing is pretty valid, and again, maybe not 1-to-1, but pretty damn close.
Yeah, we've been seeing this version of the Switch 2 since last summer. basically. I think it was early September when we got those initial images from China of what we've seen as the Switch 2 the entire time. So either the entire industry is barking up the wrong tree, or everybody's onto something, and every time a new example gets added to the pile, it gets increasingly likely, like you were saying, Justin, that everybody is onto something, and that this is probably largely what this thing is going to be. Again, maybe everyone's basing this off stuff they saw in early 2024 or in 2023 when these patents were being filed and stuff has changed. But yeah, you can have a basic idea that this is at least the bedrock, I think, of what this thing's going to look like. But Chris, you were going to say something before Justin did.
No, I think that's a good way to put it, as like it being the bedrock. Like there's too many. There's a few things. There's too many companies that have come out and said things that like overlap too much, right? I think what Genki has done, like theirs, if I understand correctly, basically is like a 3D print of what they expect the Switch 2 to be, which is in line with those CAD drawings that came out back in September from the Chinese leak. I think the one that sold it for me were the pictures of the Joy-Con. We've seen that in a few different capacities, and the fact that it has like all of the copyright, like patent information printed on the back of the Joy-Con makes me think it's real. I feel like that's pretty obvious at this point. I think it's hard to combat that. I do think it's very funny that nobody knows what the C button does. Like that is hilarious to me.
Let's guess right now before anybody knows. What's it going to do? What is that weird button? So if you haven't been paying attention to these leaks, the Joy-Con look very, very similar. There's some differences. They're going to snap on magnetically, apparently. And so the back button looks a little bit different from the leaks that we're seeing. And then there's still the capture button on the left one and the home button on the right one. But then underneath the home button is a button that's very similar to the capture button, but it has a C on it. Nobody knows what this thing does. Genki says, we don't know what it does either, that no one knows because, again, the software part of this is still very under wraps at Nintendo. Justin, take your best guess. What's the C button do?
Ooh. If we already have a capture button, I think it is going to be the button that... I don't know. I got nothing.
No guess. Chris Shriver?
I have two guesses. It's either like connect, whether that's to the internet, like an airplane mode,
or to the dock, perhaps,
or to the dock. Yeah, I could see it being something like Wii U style. Oh, that actually, yeah, that's a really good guess. If it's something where like you can do that, like remote play type of deal to the dock somehow, I don't know. That's a solid guess. Or if there's a camera that like nobody has picked up on. For some reason, because they love slapping cameras on the 3DS and people were taking them to concerts. I don't know what else it would be.
Camera would be fun. I don't know. It could have something to do with the optical sensor that we talked about too. Maybe it activates some mode that changes how the Joy-Con is acting as a controller. Because right now you can hold it vertically and you hit L and R on your pair of Joy-Con, or horizontally and you hit the two shoulder buttons. Maybe that flips it. I don't know. It could do something like that.
Or what if have we confirmed if there's an IR camera in the Joy-Con?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if we know that.
So is there a way, I don't even know how this would work. Is there a way that you could have one Joy-Con be the IR camera, you would activate it with that button, and then the optical sensor would somehow interface with it? I don't know if that makes sense. Like, probably not. It sounds stupid coming out of my mouth right now.
I know. I can zoom out right now and see us reflecting back on this conversation in 6 months and being like, we were just spewing nonsense out.
Yeah.
Because we don't know. Yeah,
C is for cardboard. It's how you will connect to their next generation Labo.
Labo confirmed.
I think that I'd like to think that it's a streaming button to connect to the dock, like you guys mentioned. That feels good to me, but yeah, I don't know how I feel about that, because that's just a gamepad, and would they do that? I don't know if they would do that at this point. But yeah, it's exciting though to see that all this stuff is happening, and I still am as excited as ever for the official reveal, because I feel like everything that is being leaked or rumored about this is not the most exciting stuff. The most exciting stuff is what are the games going to be and how good our next generation Nintendo game's going to be. We kind of have thought for a while Switch 2 was just going to be an iteration. It's looking like that is the case. So now it's the ball's in Nintendo's court to show us the stuff we really want to see. What does Mario look like? What's the launch lineup? What are all these weird features we're wildly speculating on? So for me, at least, it hasn't taken any hype away from the official reveal because, yeah, sure, there's Joy-Con. There's a new button. We know nothing. We don't know anything. We know the shape of our Christmas presents. We don't know what's in them. So I think there's still very exciting stuff to be revealed. Is there anything else that we should hit on this, or should we move on to our anti-predictions show?
We should probably move on, but there's like plenty more to talk about, like the little swiveling clips that seem to go with the Joy-Con and things like that.
I've heard that's just I don't know if this is true or not. This is just something I read in one article, that is just part of the 3D print because they couldn't simulate the magnets on their mock-up, and that's not actually going to be there. And that was just to show how the Joy-Con will attach, and then they just slide those onto. Yeah. But I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah. But I hope not, because if that is the thing, they're ugly. That's weird and doesn't... Yeah, it seems like those could snap off like DS hinges and disappear, and I don't know. I wouldn't like that.
I think they're trying to avoid that.
Yeah, I'm a little skeptical of like magnets, though. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Especially like after you had it for a few years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have like the flip, the Samsung Galaxy Flip, and it's the one that like... Oh gosh, I just dropped it. It's the one that, like, clamps down to the
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah. So it has a magnet, and I did some reading on reviews and stuff of this thing, and saw after a few years, does the magnet wear or anything? And no one seemed to have major issues with that. But I do know with Joy-Con, the rails do wear down over time, and
yes,
my original launch Joy-Con barely click into place anymore. So
I'm just worried that I'll be on like a bumpy airplane holding it, and then we'll get like hit by turbulence, and then I'm just left holding Joy-Con while the screen goes like careening down the aisleway.
Yeah, that one. Maybe they do have those clamps, though. Maybe those are a thing in case.
Or maybe it won't have it, and then it'll be like the Wii safety straps. They'll add that.
That would not be good. We do know, though, that this is why they released that dang Joy-Con charging stand last year on the same day as Mario Party. Because they're not going to attach to this new thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and that's what we all thought at the time, and it's looking like that's true. So that is our big Switch 2 conversation. We'll see. We're all wildly speculating here. It could be completely different.
We don't know.
Like
almost certainly
this
wrong.
Is what it's going to be.
The C button stands for Charles Martinet. He goes wahoo when you push it.
He goes wahoo, Mario Ambassador. Yeah, sounds good. Let's move on to our Nintendo anti-predictions show. This is exciting because we're changing things up a little bit. If you listen to this show, this is something I wanted to kind of talk about at the start of the year here. If you listen to this show, you probably also listen to Nintendo Voice Chat over on IGN, which I'm also on nearly every week. And
what's
I'm
IGN?
taking over hosting that show for the next few months. And so I sat down with these guys and we talked about it. And I don't want to do the same show every week twice. And I don't want you to listen to that either. So we're going to try and do a little bit of counter programming to what I'm doing over there on NVC. A lot of the stuff you just heard, we're definitely talking about on NVC this week too. So that'll be some overtread, but that's big enough. We got to do it that way. But here, I love doing a prediction show. We're prepping a prediction show over on NVC. So I thought with these guys, let's turn it on its head and do an anti-predictions show. 3 things that you're confident are not going to happen in 2025 for Nintendo. I asked them to keep it within reason, not like Nintendo's not going to send a man to the moon. Something that you could actually see Nintendo doing that they're not going to do.
I mean, I could.
I know it's funny, guys, because I was typing out the show notes, and I was trying to think of an example of something they're not going to do. And I was like, last year they released an alarm clock and a streaming service and opened a museum and did all this weird stuff. They could do anything. So I don't know. But try to keep it within reason. So I have 3, and I actually have 4 anti-predictions in case we double up anywhere. Chris, do you have some ready to go? Are you ready to kick off round 1?
I have maybe 2.
Okay.
So my first one is I don't see them partnering with Xbox to bring Game Pass to the Switch 2.
Good one.
But I do see them partnering with somebody like Nvidia to bring game streaming
Oh,
to the Switch too.
Nice.
Clever.
Nice. I like how you squeaked a prediction into your anti-prediction. That's very clever,
Thank you.
Chris.
Thank you.
Yeah. Why? Talk about it. Why do you think those two things?
I feel like because they are hardware partners, Nvidia is kind of like the agnostic man in the room at this point when it comes to like having that type of technology. And up until this point, from my understanding, like I don't think that's like an internally Nintendo hosted platform. Any of their existing cloud streaming infrastructure. Like I think that's basically dependent on either a third party or the third parties that host it. So like a Capcom, Remedy, like Remedy. There's no way Remedy's hosting that. Like some third party's hosting that for them for control. I think that was like a litmus test of, okay, how well is this actually going to perform? And I think more people may have used it than I would have ever predicted. People got to play the Kingdom Hearts trilogy on something. So, yeah, I could see them partnering. Do they? At least Kingdom Hearts 2. I could see them partnering with, Nvidia on this because
Cool.
If they have a way to get a kickback, I think that I could see them doing that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Game Pass has never made sense on Switch. That's just would be a total boon for Microsoft. And so many games on Game Pass are on Switch that they sell at full price that Nintendo gets a cut of. So why would you ever let Xbox do that to you unless they are paying you millions and millions of dollars? But I just don't think the terms of that agreement would ever come to fruition. The only way I could see it is if it was only for Xbox first-party games that they weren't publishing on Switch, but there's a lot that they're doing that with already. And this, I guess I'll cheat and sneak in a prediction I have here. I think Halo comes to Switch 2 this year, or at least gets announced for Switch 2 this year. I think that we will see Master Chief in a Nintendo Switch 2 trailer, but I think Microsoft, it makes sense for them to keep Game Pass in their own ecosystem and then farm these things out to make a ton of money elsewhere. It makes sense everywhere, so I agree.
Which Halo, though? Infinite?
I think the Master Chief Collection.
So they're ending support for the Master Chief Collection. That's the only thing that that has me hesitant.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're not taking
not to
offline or
poop
anything
all
like
over
that.
your parade.
They're just not doing like additional updates to it. I mean, there are a lot of rumors about a Halo Combat Evolved like full remake as well in
Unreal 5?
Unreal.
Yeah.
So like I could see that potentially being a thing too.
Yeah, it just Phil Spencer saying we're going to bring our games everywhere else, and then a new Nintendo console launch that will apparently have the power of last gen, an Xbox One or a PS4. Now is the time for these stars to finally align that have been rumors since the Nintendo DS days to get Halo on a Nintendo console.
Do you want my hot take? I don't think
Yeah.
Microsoft cares about Halo as much as we do anymore. I think they're like, well, we've got all these weirdo IPs that we're trying to make stick. Let's get it into more hands. Like Halo's gonna Halo, right? I think they're gonna.
I
they're
disagree
gonna keep
with
getting
you because
grounded.
Is it?
they just renamed 343 Halo Studios and announced this huge big plan to revitalize the series. I think they care.
Yeah,
We should
don't get me wrong,
a show
I play Halo
where we talk
Infinite.
about Halo.
we should. I play Halo Infinite at least twice a week, but
Great.
I don't know. I don't know if it has the staying power that it used to.
But it would sell so
With-
crazy
with
on a
the
Nintendo
youth.
platform, I
Yeah.
think.
I mean, I also think Microsoft has completely botched Halo over the last decade, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, I think-
Nintendo
anyways.
podcast.
Justin, do you have an anti-prediction for us?
yep. So at least for year one, no Mario Kart.
Okay.
That's
bold.
is.
Everyone says otherwise. Why do you think so?
And I'm gonna go, and I want to go against the grain. A couple of reasons. I think that like the extended success and support of Mario Kart 8 puts them in a really tough position in terms of like what does it look like at launch, what does it do. I think that it is something that benefits from a large install base, and that takes time to build. And so I think it makes sense for them to give that a year to get all of the Switch 2s out into people's hands before they start flooding the market with selling 90 million copies of this one. I think that there's strategic reasons for them to also be very deliberate and cautious about when they release their big first-party games. They don't like to step on their own toes. They like to space stuff out. And I think that we already know we're getting Metroid Prime 4. I really think there's a good chance we're going to get the next 3D Mario. I think there's other big tentpole things that we are potentially looking at. We've gotten to the point where we kind of feels like we get an annual Zelda something at this point. So like I also wonder a little bit about the room for it, assuming that this gets pretty good support. And so I think it could make a lot of strategic sense for them to do that. And it gives them time to like sort of think about how you do games as a service, which is what Mario Kart transformed into over this generation.
Chris,
I would like to add to this. You can't, if F-Zero is coming back, you can't release Mario Kart.
That's true. If you're gonna do F-Zero, do it this year.
Yeah, you're sending F-Zero out to die if you release it. If you release Mario Kart 9 with the Switch, or Mario Kart 10 if you count Tour. There was another thing. It's like, I also think they need 1 year where they don't sell that freaking bundle, because you're going to get all these people that are like, I just got Mario Kart 8 with my Switch for Christmas, and I've only had it for 6 months, and now Mario Kart 9 is coming out in July. Like,
a cooling off period.
They need the cooling off. Those people need to play Mario Kart and be done with it and be able to miss it.
You know what? I agree with Chris. I'm right.
Oh my God, a new one. I agree with Justin. He's right.
Well, I disagree that they're not selling that Mario Kart 8 bundle this year. I think they absolutely are going to this Black Friday for Switch 1. I think that will still be on the shelf.
God.
Yeah, they got to sell through their remaining Switch 1 somehow, and that's how they'll try and do it. So maybe for that reason, there isn't going to be a new Mario Kart. Yeah, Justin, I'm totally 50-50 on this, and it all depends on when the Switch 2 comes out, because I don't think I could be convinced that the big launch game is anything other than the next Super Mario. I am so locked in on that. That's just makes sense. That's what it has to be at this point. So I think that's the launch game. And if the Switch comes out in the spring, then I could see Mario Kart being the fall game. But they never said it's coming out in the spring. They might push this thing out to September, October, or November, release it with a Mario, sell their Mario Kart 8 Switch 1 bundles, and call it a year. So I think it just depends on the timing of the thing. But I could see that. I could see Mario Kart being a next year thing. I'm just so ready for it. My first anti-prediction is... Hold on, I got to pull up my list here. See which one I want to roll with first. I think there will be no Animal Crossing revealed or released this year. And I just have been thinking about the major Nintendo franchises and which ones they want to fire out there first. And everyone always says Animal Crossing needs to come out first, because how many people do you know that have a Switch that has Animal Crossing and nothing else? To me, that's the exact reason why it shouldn't come out first. That's not the type of consumer you want to purchase your hardware in the first year. The person you want to buy it in year one is people like us who will buy it for the new 3D Mario and then buy everything else that comes out for it in those years to come. You want that to be your early adopter. And then in 2 or 3 years, when you release the cheaper Switch 2 Lite, then you launch Animal Crossing, and everyone else gets it. They buy Animal Crossing, and they buy Overcooked 3, and that's it. And then their Switch gets dusty until the Switch 3 Animal Crossing comes out. So I just think that Animal Crossing is their most casual, and I don't mean that negatively, but it is the most casual of their hardcore tentpole franchises, and I just think that that's the one that waits. So I don't think we see Animal Crossing this year, and I actually think that we'll see Splatoon on Switch 2 before we see Animal Crossing. Cool.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that you're right. I think that attach rate is a high priority early on. I think that Nintendo is smart enough to know that as great as Animal Crossing was, a lot of that was a product of the time as well when it came out, of everybody being home in the pandemic, and it's sort of like catching fire. I think that they would be smart to look at it as a opportunity to continue to grow that franchise, but one where they're going to have to, where they can't assume it's just going to blow up the exact same way, and they have to be like really smart and very careful with it. And yeah, and I also think that like if it's true that like a great number of the players of that game are ones who don't have other games on it, that means they're probably not the ones who were aggressively online getting pre-orders in and badges and things like that. And so you also want to frustrate those people and freeze them out of getting their console. And so waiting until it's something that you can go pick up on the store shelf, I think would be good for all parties.
And I'm also just not ready. I don't know. I think the next Animal Crossing is going to be a weird thing for a lot of people, and we've talked about that a little bit, because I can't go play New Horizons without being flashed back to March of 2020, and I don't like to be in that mindset. It's not fun to go revisit that game. I hear the theme song, and yeah, it's a rush of kind of negative nostalgia for that. And I don't know if that's a series thing or just a New Horizons thing, but yeah, I don't know how.
That's right. New one's going to have photorealistic graphics. It's going to be amazing. Yeah, Uncanny Valley horror
and survival elements. Sounds good. Yeah. Chris, you had maybe a second anti-prediction. Do you have a full second one now?
They're kind of weird, right? Because it's like I want to be like, they're not going to release this game. Like,
that's what I just did.
I know, but like, how many franchises are we going to do this with? You know what they're not going to do? They're not going to give you the Twilight Princess Wind Waker HD combo pack that has been rumored for forever.
That hurts, but I believe you.
Yeah, but I think you maybe get one. I don't think you get them both in the same year.
Yeah, I would love to get one, though. I don't care which one.
Yeah.
I think it's time for Twilight Princess, honestly, yeah. Like, that game, it's kind of weird. Like, when that got re-released on the Wii U, it was, like, right at the tail end of the Wii U's life cycle, if I remember correctly. And
it was 2016.
It kind of, like, came and went, like, really quickly. And I think, like, I was already out enough on my Wii U that, like, I wasn't as excited about it as I wanted to be, even though that amiibo is amazing. Not that should be the only reason you play a game. But yeah, I feel like if they were going to, but there's also a part of me that, like, I feel like if they're going to revisit a lot of those titles at this point, they need to, like, remake them more than they did with Skyward Sword, or at least I'd like them to. Like, make, like, real enhancements to it. Like, all right, everybody knows the first, like, what, 3 to 4 hours of Twilight Princess is, like, kind of a drag. Like, all right, let's get that moving along. Like, let's improve that. I don't think they're gonna do that. I want them to, though.
I don't even feel that way about that game. I think it has a great.
I will say I'm one of the people that actually likes the start just fine, but I understand the criticism.
Yeah, it's slow if you just want to be in a dungeon opening doors with small keys, but I like the slow slice of life pace. We don't ever get Link's slice of life except in Twilight
you
Princess
don't.
and Skyward Sword. And
let me wrestle goats, cowards.
Yeah, please. Yeah, I want them both to come at the same time so people can realize which one's the better game, because right now people are wrong about which one they think is the better game. And I think a double pack of them a lot of people would realize, hey, Twilight Princess is actually better than the Wind Waker. And yeah, that only happens if they come out at the same time.
Best of that formula.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very good.
Logan and I always agree on our Zelda takes.
He's apparently a Tears of the Kingdom hater now, which I didn't.
I'm not a hater. Come on, you're right. I'm so sorry. I think it's a 9.5 in Breath of the Wild as a 10. My bad.
Oh, really? It's not even a 10 anymore. Dang. That's crazy.
I told you.
This is why we're banishing you to that other show.
As time marches on, more and more will join
the score is like an hourglass, and the sands are just running.
And I'm waiting at the bottom.
I think they're both incredible. I prefer Breath of the Wild. Logan prefers Tears of the Kingdom, and so this is like the MCU Civil War. It is what it is.
Chris, I don't agree with you that more people are going to... Some will, naturally. I don't think it's going to be as big of an exodus as you think. I think that... We talked about this before, I think, on this show. It's just how things go. The hype, then the crash, and then it evens out.
And then it comes
we're
back
in the
up.
crash right now.
Yep, 100%.
People,
absolutely.
It's cool to hate it. And, well, it'll even out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people will be like, oh, wait, no, that was actually really rad.
Because it was.
Not as rad as Breath of the Wild, but...
Yeah, I love I love, and I disagree with you. This is all from this is very, very niche.
This is pretty
in our
inside baseball
Discord
right here.
conversation. I said that Breath of the Wild's world was boring because it was always like the answer was nothing or a Korok to what's over that hill. And then Justin said, I'm old enough to appreciate a world just for being a world. And I totally reject that take because I can do that too.
TikTok generation.
Breath of the Wild's world just isn't
Gotta be
enough.
stimulated.
TikTok generation, sir.
It's got to be
Excuse me.
stimulated at all times.
No, I don't. I
Ooh, a
enjoy
piece of candy. Ooh, a piece of candy.
Right.
Yeah, no. And it's it's the same world in Tears of the Kingdom, right? There's just actual,
I know, you're like, there's got to be something behind that mountain. I'm like, can't we appreciate the mountain?
yeah, Breath of the Wild.
I just like climbing the mountain.
No, it's stringing you along with this dangling a mystery in front of you, and then the answer is nothing. That's lame. That's not good.
The mystery
the answer
is a
isn't
cute
clear.
little puzzle where there's a Korok.
All right, look. Here's the difference between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
In Breath of the Wild, you'll come across this battlefield scattered with broken and smashed guardians in pieces, and you're left to your imagination to imagine what must have got on there. In Tears of the Kingdom, you would show up to the same thing, then you just scotch tape all those robots together and throw them out of a goblin. That's the two games.
Yeah, it's okay, that is romanticizing Breath of the Wild, and that's very reductive towards Tears of the Kingdom. That was a very biased take right there. I agree. The environmental storytelling in Breath of the Wild is perfect and better than it is in Tears of the Kingdom, but Tears of the Kingdom does nearly.
Listen, we could do a show on this sometime. I think that this is a topic that we could really get into.
I think we will. I listened back to our spoiler cast, and you loved Tears of the Kingdom. Which, by the way, we got a question.
I do love Tears of the Kingdom.
I know.
Okay, and so this is the thing that people do, where it's like the whole like, oh, you hate waffles. No, I didn't say anything about that. I just here are two things that are not the same thing, and therefore you are likely to prefer one or the other. That doesn't mean you hate the other thing.
Yeah, I know. I was just messing with you.
But if you you know me, you know I do love to get into it, and I do love a pithy insult here and there.
Yes, so we'll do that this year. We'll do Breath of the Wild versus Tears of the Kingdom, and Chris,
I will be on my worst behavior.
You have to have rolled credits on both games to attend the debate.
We'll miss you, Chris.
Yeah.
See you guys.
No, you can be there if you want. It's just last time
He can moderate.
we talked about Tears of the Kingdom, you had a take that I bite my lip on, so I didn't say anything about it. But it was fine.
Speaking of
we
Zelda,
got a question.
Oh, I was gonna give you
quickly-
my next non-prediction.
Okay, we were both trying to segue into something, and
Here we are.
I'm going to do mine, and then we can rewind and do yours, so both
Okay.
will work. So it comes from Daniel, who emailed toadstoolboardroom@gmail.com and said, Hi, TSBR. Just started listening to the Boardroom and am very happy that you have your own podcast. I've been greatly enjoying all the content on IGN and I'm happy to hear watch more. Well, thank you so much, Daniel. That's very kind. Daniel's question is, I'm specifically looking for your Tears of the Kingdom spoiler cast episode that I heard you reference on an episode I was recently listening to. Looking through your YouTube feed, I can't seem to find it. Am I missing something? Can you point me to the episode number, please? Daniel, I believe that was in the era where we were an audio-only podcast and it does not exist
There was this
on YouTube.
brief stretch.
Yeah.
Like there's a gap.
There was a chunk. So it's on all audio services. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and everything else. But it is.
Do you have the number?
Should we reenact it?
Yeah, we can do the whole thing again right now. I don't.
in
have the
fact,
number.
we'll play the audio and
I'll
just
find it.
try and stick
I
it in our mouth
will
flaps.
find it,
Yeah.
and I will mention it when I find it.
Okay. Cool. Now Justin can do his anti-prediction.
Do my segue.
Speaking
So
of
my anti-prediction, of course, you know I'm going to talk about Zelda in every show. Here's my anti-prediction. I don't think we're going to see anything that is non-gaming Zelda related. By that I mean, we're not going to see, nobody's going to talk about a Zelda world at a theme park. We're not going to see any Zelda movie stuff. No one's going to we're not going to be surprised dropping a Zelda anime or anything like this. I think that if we do get anything Zelda, one, it'll be like a Warriors type game or something like that. But I'm expecting a pretty quiet year Zelda wise. While things cook and years down the road we'll hear some stuff. But I'm expecting this to be whatever the opposite of the year of Zelda is.
I think it needs that, honestly. I think it's time for that a little bit after Tears of the Kingdom was the story of that whole year, and then Echoes of Wisdom, I think, suffered a little bit for me for how close it was to Tears of the Kingdom. And it just, So I think it's time for that. My only thing I want Zelda-wise this year is just freaking put Tears of the Kingdom in the Nintendo Music app. It's not there, and it still bothers me that that one is missing.
They're being
other
so
than that-
deliberate with their little rollouts.
Yeah. But other than that, I think I agree with you. I think we're still a year out till we hear about the Zelda movie casting or anything like that. And this year's about the Mario movie too. We'll get a trailer for that most likely at the end of the year. My next anti-prediction is that I think that there will be no shortage of Switch 2 hardware. I think that these things are not going to be hard to find. I think that Nintendo is ramping up stock. I don't think it's going to be like the PS5 and the Xbox Series X where you could not get one. I think that, yeah, you still might have to pre-order. They'll sell out at pre-orders, and you may have to wait a couple weeks to get something, but it won't be this months-long saga of trying to get it. The chips that they're probably going to use are going to be old enough and not really in that much of high demand for other cutting-edge technology that they won't be competing with other companies for them. They'll probably get them at a premium like they did with Switch 1 because companies are looking to get rid of this stuff and move on to the better stuff. That's how they're operating these days. And I think that I'll say within 3 months of this thing's release, you'll be able to just walk into the store and buy one without even having to think about it. And everyone that wants one in those 3 months will still likely be able to get one. I think that it's going to be easier this time around. It won't be like the Switch was or the last gen was. But maybe I'm totally wrong. I don't know. I could be totally off on that.
I think you're right, and I think it's for a couple of reasons. One, unlike the last go-around with the Sony and Xbox and Microsoft consoles, we're not in the same kind of chip shortage we were. And two, frankly, economic factors are a lot tougher for a lot of people than they were at that time. I think that, simply, there will be fewer people who are necessarily in a comfortable position to make a purchase like that, even if it's a cheaper console than the others. So I think it'll be less competitive trying to get your hands on one.
Yeah, what do you think, Chris?
I don't know what to expect, honestly. I think there are a lot of factors that could impact this. The ones Justin just stated. I think the economic factors right now is a huge one. Much like the conversation around why haven't we seen this thing, even if we do see it, I'm of the mindset we won't see a price until after these tariffs are implemented. And what I don't know is not only the tariffs, but what sort of impact does it have on importing foreign goods, period. So if it's bad enough, will Nintendo be less inclined to produce enough units or as many units as they normally would to a U.S. market?
Yeah, I mean, I would say Europe,
know.
South America have become massive markets, and if it's frankly a much friendlier environment to sell into, I could absolutely see them diverting a significant portion of what would have been the U.S.'s haul to other places that were easier to deal with.
Yeah, I could see that too. And then I've seen some questions floating around about pre-orders through My Nintendo accounts and Switch Online accounts. I think that'd be so smart.
I love it.
They should really
I can see them doing that.
Let me trade in my
PlayStation
platinum
Direct.
points.
Yeah, you can redeem.
Give me
20,000 points to get a
Done.
Switch 2.
Give me an exclusive color that you can only get
Oh boy,
on the My Nintendo site. That would be cool.
that would be cool. Yeah,
And then
don't
I would
think
never
they'll do
open it.
that, but I would love that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you get people like Chris to get more than one.
Yeah, and then I buy two.
Yeah. Chris,
to answer the previous,
go for it.
sorry, to answer the previous question, the Tears of the Kingdom spoiler cast is in two parts. Part one is episode 53. It was published on August 4th, 2023. Part two
I love this fact you're about to
is,
share.
I don't know why you guys split this up, but part two is episode 55.
You probably had a lot to say.
August 17th, 2023.
Well, look at the headline
the one
for the one in between, because there was some news that happened that we had to push the second part.
reports, not rumors, surface about Nintendo's next console.
It was
which is what I'm talking
Gamescom.
about right now.
It was Gamescom
And we
when
haven't talked about it since.
apparently people were seeing it behind closed doors
Yep.
at the show, and we had.
I was thinking that earlier.
Right.
So,
That was when they the rumored Final Fantasy demo came out.
And
Yes.
and
At
again,
that point.
there wasn't really any reporting that
Or was shown.
refuted that. And then the people who claim to have seen it haven't really refuted that this mock-up is pretty spot on.
Yeah.
Right.
And then
Again,
Nintendo
all
didn't
part
go
of
to Gamescom this year, and
Yep.
I think we know why they didn't go to Gamescom this year. So, yeah, that all seems like it was pretty legit when we talked about it almost a year and a
Yeah.
half ago, and we still don't know what this thing actually is. So, come on, guys,
That is
let's
insane.
hear it. All right, rapid fire final round. Anyone have any more anti predictions, or are we done?
There will be
Because I
no
got one
amiibo
more.
this year. We won't see any amiibo whatsoever.
It will not support SteamOS.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Chris. That's huge.
You got it.
That's a huge prediction. One of mine, I had 4, and I said 1 was in case we overlapped. One of mine was no amiibo. I think it's over. I think that they're done with new ones. I think there'll be reprints of old ones, but I don't think that they are investing in developing new ones anymore.
On to the next thing.
Oh, I don't think any new games will have amiibo functionality, but they'll keep making them, and no one will know why.
That last part is the most Nintendo part of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got an Alarmo for Christmas from my sister. Thank you, Alex. Awesome.
That's awesome.
But I couldn't help but think how cool it would be if it had amiibo support in some way. I don't even know what that would
really
mean,
cool.
but it would have been awesome if
Different
the Alarmo
backgrounds,
supported
unlock different
amiibo.
characters or
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, I do want Daruk to wake me up in the morning. Thank you. Bing.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Just him beating his chest.
Really, when I went to the Echoes of Wisdom preview event that Justin also attended separately, and I saw the glass case that had the Wind Waker Zelda and the Link's Awakening Link, that was the moment I knew it was over. That they were reprinting these two that kind of lined up with this game, but not really, instead of making a new one. That's when I knew they're just going to reprint for what makes sense going forward. So I think it's done. And then my true final one is that I think that we will not hear anything about that playtest that we did last year. I think that will be a mystery for at least another year and maybe
You're not
forever.
hearing about it from us.
Yeah, definitely not from us. But I don't.
Nintendo will never release that game.
Yeah, it's just or experience. Or
I think that's actually pretty
Or
good
experience or
anticipation right
whatever
there.
it was.
Yeah, I think that that's just going to remain a really weird mystery that will make our Switches more valuable because we have that icon that never came to fruition. So, yeah, it's like the ambassador certificate on 3DS. It feels great to have that on my home
One
screen.
day I'll be 98 years old in a nursing home, and I'll finally tell the story about that strange, mysterious playtest they did, and then I'll immediately get hit with a cease and desist.
Or a
Gonna say,
meteor.
and then, yeah, Nintendo will come in and pull the plug
And drag me off.
Yeah. We got what, 10 minutes left, Justin? You got 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Sure. Let's chunk through some of our backlog of EGAD's emails here. You can always email the show toadstoolboardroom@gmail.com or find us on Blue Sky at Toadstool Boardroom. This one comes from Jake, who asked in the Discord channel, EGAD's emails, what are your Nintendo New Year's resolutions? And Chris, you responded to this one at the time. Is that the one you're sticking with?
What did I say in the Discord? I can't remember.
You said stop buying first-party Nintendo games.
That's a great
Oh,
sign
yeah,
that
yeah,
he's
yeah.
devoted to getting this resolution done.
Yeah,
very-
no, I
very
think I am.
disappointed.
I think I am gonna stick with that one. That's not my only resolution, though. I would like to finish Pikmin 4. I
nice.
really, really love that game. Whether or not that happens remains to be seen. But yeah, no, there were like, God, almost every first-party Nintendo game that came out last year, they either put out a demo and I hated and still bought. Like, I can't keep doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. Not everyone. You liked Mario Party, and you have Paper Mario, and I don't think you hate that one. But
I don't hate Paper Mario. Those didn't get demos, did they?
Oh no, they didn't. Oh, you're just talking
okay.
about the demos that you didn't like. and
Well,
that you
like
still bought.
every
Yeah.
one that got a demo, I was like, this is awful, and then I never opened it, but I still bought it
Yeah. Nice.
because I
good
pre-ordered it.
one.
Like, they got me this year for sure.
Yeah. Well, in a similar vein, this isn't mine, but I'm officially digital now. All digital.
Yes.
Not me.
One
my
of us.
game collection.
One of us.
Yeah, it happened, and it just made sense because I was just so stupid for a few months where I'd review a game, get a digital code, early copy, and then still buy it physically on day one. Why was I doing that? I only did it a few times. I did it for Paper Mario. That's one of my all-time favorites, so I grabbed that
I
one
get
physically.
Paper Mario.
But I finally stopped. The last few I have not done that with, and it feels good. And I haven't regretted it once, so it's over. Yeah, the days of the physical collecting is over. I'll go into Switch 2 completely digital. I think Smash Brothers is like the only
save
one
for
I will
last.
buy and still put in that cartridge and just it'll live in there, probably. But that's not my resolution. Justin, do you have a Nintendo New Year's resolution?
Yeah, I do. It's to try and finish a lot more of the Nintendo first-party games this year. Frankly, I didn't finish a ton of them last year. It's a combination of working on a lot of games and reviews and things like that just eat up all your time. And then I do have a tendency to get pretty invested in like certain live service games. I'm no longer on the Destiny beat, so that frees up a lot of my time. But I have been playing a little bit too much.
Congratulations!
I have been playing a little too much Marvel Rivals lately, and having a very good time with that. But like, I'm making my way through 1,000 Year Door right now. I'm just about
nice.
so I'm just about. I'm still pretty early, but I'm about to go take on what's the dragon, Hooktail. So I'm still in the early going there. I do want to finish Echoes of Wisdom, but like that's a concerted effort that I'm going to try and make this year, is to like try and like not just play them and like get into them, but like finish them. Like I kind of hate the term roll credits, but like, you know, get to the credits on them.
I do too. I hate it too. Why can't we just say beat anymore? Why can't we just say I beat a game? Everyone in the industry has to say rolled credits now.
Right.
Come on now, you beat it or you won. That's what.
Yeah, I rolled credits on the movie Wicked last week too.
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
I mean, that's kind of a feat. That's like an almost 3 hour.
Actually, a really long movie. Actually, I deserve some of my Nintendo points for that.
Yeah,
and it's only a part 1. Can you believe it? Yeah, they're gonna charge you for a whole second part as DLC next year. That's this year.
Can't wait.
But yeah, I like that resolution. That'll be awesome for this show too, Justin, to be able to talk about more Nintendo games week to week. Metroid Prime 4, super psyched for that. I'm sure we'll all be playing that one.
I will definitely play that one.
Yes.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I have one that I'm kind of regretting already because mine was to finish the Donkey Kong Country trilogy. I just don't like those games, guys. I just don't like them. And, oh, man, I really want to. And Chris is getting up and leaving. He's walking away. Goodbye, Chris. I am halfway through Donkey Kong Country 1, and I just
that game gets so hard near the end.
Well, it just has aged so poorly, and the platforming isn't even that good. Soundtrack is good.
It's such a like unique momentum system it has. And it's like part of what makes it hard is Frank is fairly unpredictable, at least to my unskilled hands, and like that can be frustrating. Some of the like later game minecart levels can be really frustrating as well. And same thing where it's like, just because the way the physics work, getting exactly the right arcs a lot of times does feel like it's more so like there's just no right answer and you have to flail at it rather than like a pure skill check. But that said, like I do like the enemy designs. I like the way it looks. I think the level design is cool. They're so chock full of secrets and things like that. It was an astonishingly beautiful game when it came out initially. It's not perfect, but like I will say, if you're like deep into it and it's not clicking with you, you are not gonna like it more once you get to like the latter quarter of the game when it gets like pretty punishing, and you have to replay very large sections over and over again.
It's just I love Tropical Freeze.
Yeah,
you guys know that. I think it's one of the greatest platformers ever made. I think it's just phenomenal, and just what I love about it, I'm not finding in the original trilogy. And I've even tried to bounce around because I'm sure someone listening is thinking, just skip 1, go to 2. 2's the best one. I can't get into 2 either. I just can't do it. I just don't like the platforming. I agree the minecart levels aren't good because the screen is so small and you just don't know what's coming and you just have to remember, okay, this is when this Kremlin comes flying down the track.
Yep. It is a bygone age where you had to memorize levels to play through them. Like, you know, people talk about the original like Battletoads being insurmountable. I mean, it kind of is, but again, that's how we played games back then too. You just beat your head against it until you didn't have to see it coming. You just had to internalize all those moves ahead of time. Which, yeah, in hindsight, that sucks. But you know, at the time, that's how we played.
That's how they got it to fit on the cartridge.
Yeah,
that's why when you look at a long play of somebody doing like a perfect run, it's like 30 minutes because like that's how long it is.
And yeah, okay, I thought so because I was ripping through these early levels. I looked up how many levels are there. It said 40, and I'm already through over 20, so it must just get crazy in the second half because But it's one of the most important things in a platformer is predictability in its mechanics and just its hitboxes.
And I think that's exactly where it misses.
It doesn't happen at all. You hit your pinky toe on something and you die. And then you hit it in a slightly different angle and it stomps on it. And the
I don't want to rag on it. Or like you'll cartwheel into the exact same enemy you've cartwheeled into 87 times, but this time you died. I don't know why, but you did.
And this isn't me even hating on these games. It just feels like,
I like 'em.
It just passed me by. I just missed the boat on
Old game is old.
That's fine. Yeah, old game is old. I get why people
That's
like
right, Chris,
them,
we're old.
especially
We
if
can
you played
appreciate
them at the time.
No, we're old. I get it.
I just think they've aged so badly. And yeah, I'll see if I can push through. I might amend the resolution to maybe just beat 2 because I didn't like anything I played of 3 either. But yeah.
Don't listen. This is what everyone listening to the show and on this show, this should be your resolution. Don't play a game you don't like.
That's a good one.
Like, just stop. Just stop. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. If you don't like the game, just stop. It's okay.
Yeah,
Let it go.
I agree with that in most scenarios, but
Just say,
for me,
Tom, this brothership sucks. I'm not finishing this. You deal with it.
But I want to have a library in my head of all the big Nintendo games. So when I'm on a show, I can just talk about it. Just pull that experience out of my brain and talk about it. I don't have those for these Donkey Kong Country games right now. My only tune I can sing with those is I've tried the first world and don't like them, and I'd like to just have a little bit more knowledge of them than I do, because it feels like really one of the only areas that's missing for me is those old dang Donkey Kong Country games that I really, really don't like. Yeah. It's a shame, but that's currently my New Year's resolution. Otherwise, I don't think I want to finish Xenoblade 3. I think that is a game that I love that I want to get back to. And finally, roll credits on.
Love to finish that one.
If you're going to, this is the early half of this year is the year to do it.
Right now is the time to do it.
Because otherwise, good.
Yeah, before you get your Switch U.
Yeah.
Switch U. Nice. I hope so. All right, well, we got one from Thomas, which will be our last question here, who asks, what are your Nintendo, or that, I just reread the same line. What can we expect from Nintendo to commemorate Mario's 40th anniversary this year? Well, I think we talked about it a lot. We think Mario Paint 2. We think a new 3D Mario. And we think a coin flip of a Mario Kart. And anything else? Mario movie trailer. Probably some merch.
A lot of Chris Pratt.
Yeah, I think you'll get a teaser for Mario, the Mario movie 2. I don't think you'll get a full-length trailer. They'll announce like who are the new characters coming, and it'll be like that weird headshot thing.
Yeah, well, and I think we might get both, like a shorter teaser earlier in the year and then something more robust later. I'd have to go back and look at the timelines, but I feel like we're in the point where like we're not that far off from where the hype cycle starts to like slowly start trickling in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're about a year and 3 months out from the movie, so I think we'll hear about it twice this year.
Yeah.
Once with that casting info, who's voicing Yoshi, and then a big trailer in December or something like that to be with the big Christmas movies, whatever those are going to be, I don't know. But by the way,
there will be...
It's the greatest video game movie of all time. Sonic 3 is so awesome.
It's definitely a kid's movie.
Did you watch it?
I've only seen the first one.
I did watch it.
I liked it, though.
It's a kid's movie, but it's so good.
I mean, Shadow, I'll say this.
Oh my God.
Shadow is the coolest thing to have ever been conceived, like in someone's mind. Like he is he's dripping with cool.
Mm-hmm. He was designed in a lab literally to be cool, and that is that's what he is.
That is his primary function.
Mm-hmm. Any last guesses for Mario's 40th? I think a new console and a new 3D Mario. That's good enough. That's a good birthday present from Nintendo, I think.
Yeah, but like, what's the one more thing? Like, there's got to be Paint. Like,
I think it could be Mario Paint.
I think it is Mario Paint. I think you're right.
By the time you turn 40, it's probably time to schedule a physical. So maybe a Dr. Mario.
Oh yeah. That'd be nice on Switch. It doesn't have one, which is crazy. That's
Mario Roth IRA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Yeah, he's starting to get like reverse mortgage ads and Medicare Plus.
Yeah, sounds great. Okay, that is our first episode of 2025 in the books here in the Toadstool Boardroom. We're a weekly Nintendo show here on Thursdays on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, with a video version on YouTube, audio wherever you like to listen to your shows. Find us on Blue Sky at Toadstool Boardroom. You can email the show toadstoolboardroom@gmail.com and jump into our Discord server. We're organizing a Super Mario Party Jamboree tournament right now. Entrants are closed for this one, but you can get in on the next one or whatever other game nights we have coming down the pipe. It's sure to be a ton of fun. Justin, where can people find you?
You can find me on Blue Sky. Look for KOREIS if you want to see something I contributed to and get mad at me. I contributed to Rolling Stone's recent 50 greatest games of all time list, which is perfect for, let's say, creating discussion and disagreement amongst people. So check that out.
It was a good top 10. I liked the top 10 once I knew the rules about
it was solid
per franchise and everything. It was good.
Yeah. If you know me, you will not be shocked at what's at number one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it was missing a 3D Mario, which is crazy. That's crazy to me. That's the
shocking
biggest...
omissions. There were some shocking ones. Check it out, and you'll see what I mean. And that's one of the biggest. Again, no Mega Man X to me is devastating. But I'm just one vote.
Yeah. Chris Shriver, where can people find you?
You can find me all over the internet at Shrives93. I don't really message anything on X anymore, so if you're trying to hit me up on there, go pound sand. I do want to give a shout out to, if you are somebody that works at a computer for long periods of time throughout the day, I found a YouTube channel called Nostalgia. It's N-E-S. It's like nostalgia with N-E-S. Nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
But they do lo-fi beat remixes of Nintendo franchise music. So like I listened to Earthbound today. Last week I must have listened to like 8 or 9. Yeah, it's a lot like Zelda and Chill. But they have like every Nintendo game that you can think of.
Wait, you listen to Earthbound though?
Yeah.
That's nostalgia though.
Hey man, I don't make the rules. I just opened up YouTube and Ocarina of Time was there. It's just this is what he calls himself or herself, itself, the being that is nostalgia.
You can find me at Logan J. Plant. I want to give a quick plug to my What to Expect from Nintendo in 2025 video, which is up on IGN.com and on IGN's YouTube. Because I went back, and I'll toot my own horn just a little bit here. I went back and looked at last year's predictions. I got so much right for 2024, and I was pretty happy about it. I called a new Mario Party, which we got. I called Grezzo's next game, which we got with Echoes of Wisdom. I called a Metroid Prime 4 re-reveal, but it wouldn't be out that year, which we got. And then there were a couple other like tiny things that I got. So I was like, okay, maybe I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. So go check out 2025, where I'm sure to get it all wrong this time now that I've pumped up last year's. But I called some fun things, including a Kirby Planet Robobot HD remaster, which would be awesome. And if you heard Nate the Hate or whatever say that, I wrote my article before that report came out. So I have the Google Docs receipts if you would like to see them. But that's it.
Who that is or what that means, but I believe you.
Yeah, Justin. Whenever like a Nintendo YouTuber or something gets posted in Discord, Justin's like, "Who is this? What is that?"
I'm so old.
I have no idea. Yeah, all right. But for now, that's all the time I got. I got to get back to playing Animal Crossing New Leaf on my Nintendo 3DS. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great week, and we'll catch you next time right here in the Toadstool Boardroom, or maybe the Toadstool Asylum. We'll have to see what next week brings.